Welcome to the show with no name for September the 2nd, 2014. I'm Bob Going with Jim Nikosha and Gavin Murdoch.
Good morning, everyone. Am I on?
Well, you would be on, Jim, if I had turned up the volume.
I just got to say good morning to everybody.
Okay,
now you're all set.
That's very
good.
polite.
We're good.
All right, let's get the important stuff out of the way right off the top of the show. Gavin, your kid did pretty good with his piping over the weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a real good weekend. He hit the trifecta. He got a first, second, and third, and got was named
overall
Piper of the Day for his point total. So he was real pleased.
Piper of the Day.
Piper of the Day. And there were about 500 pipers there, something like that.
Really?
Yeah, there's 29 bands there from all over the Northeast, and one from Texas.
Wow.
Yeah, so he had a good weekend. Even a blind pig gets an acorn once in a while. So
hey! Of course, the kid's practicing all the time because you've got him supporting the family at this point.
Yeah, he's supporting himself anyways. It takes some of the pressure off of us. So, well, he had a good weekend, and the band had a good weekend as well.
That's great. I'm glad to hear it. I saw that picture in the paper. I said, "Wow!" I said, "That's our official."
That's the official piper of the show with no name.
That's right.
That's right. And he belongs to the official pipe band of the show with no name as well.
That's right. He's the lead piper.
He's the lead piper.
The principal piper?
Yes.
Yeah. He doesn't pick up peppers though. Or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna try to work it into that Johnny Carson, Jack Webb routine, but the klutzy comedy. I just picked this up. I see that there's a benefit spaghetti dinner on Saturday, September 6th, this coming Saturday at the Hageman Volunteer Fire Department to benefit the Leather Stocking Honor Flight. If you don't know what that is,
that's a good cause.
It's a great cause. They take World War II vets, all expenses paid, fly them down to Washington, tour the city, and particularly the World War II Memorial, and bring them home.
I don't think it's just World War II vets. I think it's Korea.
I don't know. Whatever.
All of them.
We may be running out of World War II vets, but
they are.
And anyway, my mother-in-law did this several years ago, and it was terrific.
Yeah. When's the honor flight going to be? Does it say?
It does not. This is just like a poster. Anyway, adults $8, children $5. Good cause, give to it. That's all I can say. Even if you don't like spaghetti,
Who doesn't like spaghetti?
Before we get into the real serious stuff,
okay.
I had breakfast at the Muni Golf Course Sunday.
Yeah.
And it rained, and we were out on the patio.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I wish someone would donate a roll of duct tape to Laura or whoever takes care of the place, because we had to move our tables 3 times because the water was coming through. So
the awning?
A little duct tape would have been really appreciated Sunday. So.
The canopy had a leak in it, huh?
Yeah, and it wasn't a can of. We needed the duct tape. That's all.
Well,
don't leave home without it.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Now we'll get to the serious stuff.
I guess so. All right. Some of these things just pop up just before the show, and this is one of them. Apparently, the Mayor's Charter Commission. You'll recall that the mayor appointed her own charter commission after the Common Council appointed me as chairman of a separate charter commission.
Yeah.
And under an appellate division ruling from several years ago, the Mayor's Charter Commission supersedes ours, and we could not put anything on the ballot if her Charter Commission put something on the ballot. In fact, the Common Council can't put anything on the ballot as long as hers is in effect. So next time we do this, we're going to have to get a Citizens Charter Commission together, and that apparently would be allowed. So, but in any event, deadline is approaching, as has been discussed for months. It was certainly a frequent topic of my charter commission because we knew that we had to get our work done by a certain date so that there would be time to have everything done to get things on the ballot for November. Well, the filing deadline, I believe, is this coming Friday.
And I hope they don't meet the deadline.
Well, 3 days from now.
Well, apparently they have, because they They held I think, an unannounced meeting last night.
An illegal meeting.
Probably. I mean, who schedules a meeting on a federal holiday, for God's sakes?
People are trying to be sneaky.
Yeah. But anyway, Tim Becker was aware of it, and on his online broadside, the Mohawk Valley Compass this morning, he posted this story. And I thank him for this, because otherwise we wouldn't even known about this. Of course, today's recorder isn't out yet, and they may very well have something on this. But in any event, here, I'll read the whole story, because it's fascinating.
So we can absorb it.
The Charter Commission, appointed by Mary Ann Thane earlier this year, met yesterday, meaning Monday, apparently, to finalize their proposals for changes in the city's charter. According to Chairman Peter Califano, the proposals will be proofread by the members and submitted to the Montgomery County Board of Elections on Wednesday, just 2 days before the deadline to have them appear on this November's ballot. Califano also said that he will schedule a public hearing within 2 weeks to answer questions about the proposed changes. City residents will be able to vote on the proposals in this November's election. Now, I could be wrong. As I say, this came up very late before the show started, within the hour before the commencement of the show. So this is the first I've had a chance to look at it, and I certainly haven't had time to research it. But my recollection is the municipal home rule law provisions respecting the appointment of charter commissions requires them to hold public hearings before the stuff is submitted
for the ballot?
For the ballot, so that the public has direct input on these issues. Now, these things were all adopted last night.
If that's the case, then we can stop the thing going on the ballot without the public hearing?
Well, somebody could do it. It's not going to be me, but somebody could do that, if I'm correct on that.
And what's the process to do it?
I don't know. I haven't had time to look into this.
Well, look into it, because...
All right. I guess you get an order to show cause with a temporary restraining order. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway. All right, now he goes into some of the details here. The first proposal would increase the separation of the executive and legislative branches of the city by removing the mayor as a presiding officer of the legislature, Part 1, and allowing the mayor to appoint his or her own deputy mayor. Currently, the mayor chairs common council meetings and the common council chooses the deputy mayor. The proposal doesn't specify a salary for the deputy mayor position. Okay. This may be a little vague, but maybe what he's reading is maybe what they adopted is a little vague. First of all, both charter commissions were in agreement on this issue on the first part of the issue of removing the mayor as a presiding officer of the legislature. Mario Villa suggested it on our charter commission. We also agreed among ourselves that we would not make this proposal if the mayor had any serious opposition to it, because it wasn't one of those things that was worth fighting over. But if she had general agreement with it, then we thought it was a good idea. We all agreed it was a good idea. Well, apparently both commissions agreed that it was a good idea. And then they put in this other provision to go along with it. It's never enough with this mayor. She has to have all the power.
All the control.
As a matter of fact, I think the mere fact that there was a general consensus on the first part of the issue caused her to second guess whether she should support it or not. If my enemies are for it, I
must be against it.
Yeah. So her head must have been exploding. So then she gets them to, and there's no question that she dictated everything that's in these proposals. Okay, this charter commission of hers acted as a bunch of rubber stamps, and in some cases, absolute stooges for the mayor. Okay, so she gets to choose the deputy mayor. Who is. Is this a different position than the one that currently exists? So and is it going to be a member of the Common Council or somebody else? We don't know that from this. But assuming it's a member of the Common Council, well, what? Come on. they elect their presiding officer. If that happens to be a deputy, also the deputy mayor, so what? So what? The deputy mayor only takes over when the mayor is incapacitated or gone. Cheapers.
So now she gets to pick who does that.
But it's because Diane is the deputy mayor this year that she can't tolerate. I imagine she won't even take a vacation because she's afraid Diane will do something in the 10 minutes that she's acting mayor.
And what's this about a salary or paying them extra for being deputy mayor?
Well, I don't know. It says it doesn't specify.
Do they get paid now?
No.
No, there's no special payment. The aldermen, are they still getting $5,000 a year?
$5,000 a year.
$5,000 a year. It's been $5,000 a year since Gomulka was the mayor, I think. Wow. The second proposal would establish 2 additional at-large common council positions, increasing the number of council members from 5 to 7. These 2 new positions would be elected by the entire city, not just one ward. The other 5 positions would still be elected by the respective wards, as they always have. Okay. If you're inventing things from the beginning, as I've often said, you can do whatever you want. If you're changing things for the sake of change, what does this accomplish?
Yeah,
what is the point?
I was going to say, what's the point?
What is the point? There can be only one point here. The mayor doesn't like the common council she has, so she hopes that by adding 2 more positions,
she
would have at least enough people that they couldn't override her veto if they were her 2 people.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all it means.
Exactly.
That can be the only reason for doing this. And of course, she hasn't gotten along with any common council that she's had, really, other than, on a lot of issues. Anyway. So, you know how I feel about this. The third and fourth proposals contain numerous changes to details in the charter that, according to Califano, do not add or take away any powers of either branch, but rather clarify sections of the charter that have been disputed. Clarify all in the favor of the mayor. Anything that's disputed is disputed. Califano said the commission, I really like this. Califano said the commission used Judge Joseph Seitz's decision earlier in the year that the Common Council could not compel the mayor to sign a city contract if she did not want to sign it or designate someone other than the mayor to sign it either. Judge Seitz's position reached neither of those issues. No. His decision stopped at the issue of whether the Common Council had the right to enter into a contract without the mayor negotiating the contract.
Right.
It stopped right there. The issue, the other 2 issues, I haven't talked to anybody in the legal profession that thought the mayor had a snowball's chance in hell of prevailing on those, because there's a million cases already in existence that say the opposite of what the mayor's position was. In other words, once a contract has been properly adopted by the Common Council, right?
Right.
The mayor is required to sign
it.
It's a ministerial act. The judge never reached that issue at all. And if he had reached it, she could not have prevailed. And it says, or designate someone other than the mayor to sign it either. That issue was also not reached. In other words, when she refused to sign it, then they passed the resolution allowing, I forget, Diane or the city clerk or somebody to sign it as a ministerial act, showing that it had been adopted.
And
those issues were never reached by the judge, but all of a sudden they're going to be put in the charter the way the mayor wants them to be, which means that even if the Common Council passes a resolution, overrides her veto, if she doesn't
agree with it,
she can just
sign
ignore
it anyway. All the judge said was that he wanted them to sit down and negotiate.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So to say that, well, the phone calls can wait till I'm done with this.
So hold on.
The current charter reads that the Common Council has power, quote, to award all public contracts subject to applicable law. The proposed change reads that the council has the power to award all contracts that are subject to competitive bidding requirements under federal or state laws or regulations. That takes a huge thing away from the power away from the Common Council, the legislative body, to award the contract. In other words, they're saying the mayor has the right to enter into any and all contracts on her own without consulting the Common Council.
And that's contrary to
That's probably contrary
to municipal law, because municipal
to the
law,
Constitution of the United States. For
municipal
God's
law says that if she enters into a contract without the council's approval, she has to pay for it out of her own budget,
Yeah.
or out of her own pocket, not her budget, her
Yeah.
own pocket.
Yeah. In other words, yeah. Well, if it's not competitive bidding, if competitive bidding is not, because competitive bidding is not required by state law, doesn't mean that the Common Council can't require competitive bidding. Just because the state law may set limits of, I don't know what it is, $1,000, $5,000, I don't know what it is, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the Common Council can't set lower limits, or that they don't on their own approve each and every contract, including contracts for staples, for God's sakes. You know. The fact is that as a practical matter, they've agreed not to do that up to a certain level, just to avoid the de minimis issues of voting every week on how much Conovers is getting and how much, and all that stuff. That wasn't a commercial for Conovers, by the way, although they're a wonderful outfit. One of the oldest businesses in the city of Amsterdam. The current charter also reads that the mayor has the power to, on approval, and it quotes, on approval by the Common Council, to negotiate and grant leases, concessions, licenses, and permits for the use of city property and appurtenances, and to execute deeds and enter into contracts on behalf of the city as authorized by the Common Council. That's the mayor's powers. The proposed change replaces this section with several paragraphs, including to execute all deeds, leases, licenses, easements, contracts, collective bargaining agreements, and any other document that memorializes an official action of the city except as otherwise authorized in this charter. The mayor shall negotiate the terms and conditions of any such document. So, in other words, only the mayor, particularly on the collective bargaining agreements, this would have only the mayor negotiating the collective bargaining agreements and then approving them. Wow.
That cuts the council out of everything.
That's right.
We don't even need the council.
Next paragraph, also quoting, execution of a collective bargaining agreement. I'm sorry. Maybe this takes it back. Execution of a collective bargaining agreement or employment contract for a position not created specifically in this charter must be approved by resolution of the Common Council. The requirement for this approval shall not be construed to authorize the Common Council to compel the mayor to execute such document. So there you go. Which goes back to the other thing. Okay, those are that's all part of the third and fourth proposals. The fifth proposal, this is really crackers. The fifth proposal, and I mean this is really crackers. Pay attention to this, folks. The fifth proposal sets a minimum funding level for both the controller's and mayor's budget lines. Minimum funding level for the mayor and the controller.
Yeah.
According to Califano, the controller's budget is 3.5% of the total expenditures in the city budget. The budget lines that the mayor has oversight over, including employee relations department, administrative assistant, corporation counsel, shared services, and all custodial building and grounds items, add up to 4.5% of the total budget. The commission proposes to prohibit the Common Council from reducing funding for either offices below the current percentage rate unless either the controller or mayor agreed to the reduction in their respective departments. In other words, we don't even they don't even need a veto anymore. There's no veto to override.
So
the mayor just gets everything, all the money she wants automatically. And the more she raises the budget in the other departments, the higher her budget goes, because it has to be a higher percentage. So if she suddenly adds $1 million to the bus system, right?
Yeah.
Then her
budget goes up.
Budget goes up 4.5% of $1 million.
So if the total budget is take a figure $20 million.
Yeah.
So she gets 4% of that.
4.5.
4 in her budget. What is 4% of 20 million?
A lot.
In her budget. I don't. Wow.
This is absolutely unbelievable that you would have mandated percentage of the budget going to the mayor and the controller.
Wow.
Califano said a number of ideas were not finalized either because there was not a clear consensus or because of lack of time to properly study the issue. Changes that were previously discussed in regards to the city clerk's office, which was having the mayor appoint the city clerk as a civil service position, the Department of Public Works, and term limits will not appear on the ballot. Califano said those issues could be discussed by future commissions. According to Corporation Counsel Gerard D. Casadas, the commission is constituted until Election Day in November, after which the mayor would have to reappoint the commission. Actually, that's not exactly true, but it's mostly true. This is absolutely incredible. This whole package of stuff. You know, my charter commission went over line by line of the budget, found things that were ambiguous and needed to be discussed. We found things that were contrary to law that needed to be taken out so they would not cause confusion.
Yeah.
And
just straightening things out. This is changing the whole charter.
Yeah, this is changing the entire power structure to make the Common Council basically superfluous.
Oh my!
The last one is the broadest grab of power I have ever seen.
Never heard of it.
And having, all you have to do is read that one and say, if you want to maintain any form of democracy in this city, any form of representative government,
you can't have that.
You cannot have anything that's been approved by this charter commission approved by the voters. So it's up to you, folks.
Sit down with a pencil and paper and figure out what the mayor's going to have in her budget if that thing goes through.
And no one can question it.
And nobody can question it.
Because the other provision provides that she can contract with whoever she wants. This is WCSS. You're on the air. Hello.
Morning, Robert. How you doing this morning?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh, Bob, I want to ask you, did you hear anything more about the C&D landfill or no?
No, there's been nothing new on that in several years. Is that correct, Jim?
That's correct.
That's it.
But in my opinion, it should be talked about again.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, I want to ask you about that. The way the city is going, when I was told everybody's there's no more jobs there, and they're going to have to do something because
can you imagine,
Amsterdam's going to starve.
Can you imagine what the economy would be in the city if we had that landfill and the
$3 to $5 million a year for 10 years?
$3 to $5 million for and the taxes.
But I'm just saying what's going to happen down the road because everybody,
what happens down the road is everybody moves to Tennessee. That's what happens.
Well, I can't help that, but I'm saying what they got to do is put the burden on the older people. Some of them that still think living up there, they got to pay all these high thing in taxes.
Well, that's right. That's been the trend for the last 40 years.
Well, it's going to get worse up there down the road.
Get worse.
Yeah. But you have to get rid of some of these liberal Democrats. That's a whole big problem up there.
Yep.
Because they're going to swallow all that money up.
Yep.
So they don't care if people starve or not. Believe me, So.
No, they don't.
And some people are not going to want to take care of us, but I don't think they care. But it's not right because I know some old people that still live up there. The ones that I still think and talk to. I've been on a fixed income. So.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob and Jim, have a nice day.
All right,
okay,
you too, Paul. All right. Okay. I don't know if he can hear us down there except when he's on hold. So, I'm not sure he's actually listening to the program like other people are doing. Well, not everybody's got access to the computer outside the area. Which reminds me, I should say hello to my daughter Louisa, wherever she is this morning. I assume she's gone back to work in Concord, Massachusetts. Did you guys have a nice weekend, by the way?
I did.
I know you were busy. You were busy with the Piper. But.
I took my sister out for dinner Sunday night. It was her 88th birthday.
There you go.
And it was a terrific day, except for the rain.
How many people were on this commission, Bob?
I'm not sure. 7, maybe?
Okay. So in order to put this proposition on, how many of the commission members had to
A
vote in
majority. A
favor.
majority. Yeah, there's nothing that says in the article whether there are any dissenting votes on this, which I find hard to believe because Curtis Penninger and Michael Chiara were on this commission, and I can't believe.
I know Michael was not for
I
the
can't
two
believe
extra.
either one of them. Yeah, Michael
That's right.
spoke
He
against
was.
that.
He was. That's right. He was for the two at large.
No, he wasn't. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he spoke against it.
Other than having more representatives from your own political party on there, what value do two more people on the council serve?
I suppose that there's always been that debate whether legislative members should be elected from district or at large. The theory has always been you get a better quality of person if they run citywide. Well, really? Yeah.
But having a mix doesn't solve anything.
No. All it does is provide.
Add bodies.
Add bodies.
And $10,000 a year.
It somewhat resembles the court packing scheme of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, where he tried to add more members to the Supreme Court when he wasn't getting the decisions he wanted. And for the same reasons, this is a dangerous thing to do, even if it's legal. But I'm more and more convinced that people say that they want people want to elect people who will speak out and listen to the public. In reality, they don't. Most people don't want to hear about it. They don't want to know about what the local issues are, and they're tired of people talking about it. You can see by the complaints that Diane gets whenever she brings an issue up. Well, why are you talking about that? I'm a little hoarse because I was out on the river yesterday.
Does that make you a pony?
What?
Does that make you a pony?
Because I was out on the river?
No, because you're a little horse.
Oh, I'm a little hoarse. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that would make me a cold. Anyway.
Or a foal.
No, there's no foal like an old foal. What was I talking about? You guys interrupted me. Oh, no, but the complaints Diane is constantly getting. Whenever she brings any kind of issue up, well, you shouldn't be talking about that. The same thing happened when David Petruccia was 4th Ward Alderman. He was there for 2 years, and he wanted to get everything done in 2 years that he wanted to get done, not just push it down the road, kick the can, he introduced numerous charter changes and everything else. And he got nothing but mockery, and it's the same thing. The mayor is making personal issues out of every bit of opposition that's coming, and of course, if something comes from Diane, she's against it, no matter what it is, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. It doesn't matter. She's against it even when she's for it, like the basketball hoop thing. I mean, she signs the ordinance and then vetoes it. Once she realized that she could get a wedge issue out of it, and now she's, look at me, I stood up for the children. Baloney, she didn't stand up for anybody, and I happen to agree with her on the issue. I would have vetoed it myself. But,
yes.
But to sign it first and then veto it and take the side of the angels.
She was waiting to see which way the wind was blowing.
Yep, that's what we do. That's not ours.
Not ours.
So I think people basically don't want to know what's going on, and they prefer to have a dictator, because I don't know whether it's Milltown mentality or what, that everybody does what the bosses tell them, and then nobody wants to think for themselves or put their own people in. I mean, there are a few of us left, but I don't think we've ever constituted a majority.
No, we haven't.
Just as everybody was screaming we needed to change the Common Council to stop the mayor. Now it's like it almost seems like the same people are screaming, "We've got to stop the Common Council."
Yeah, let her do what she wants to do.
Come on, I'm getting tired of it. I can be honest with you. This is WCSS 1490 in Amsterdam, New York, and this is a show with no name. I'm Bob Going with Jim Nikosha and Gavin Murdoch. I guess I've been doing most of the talking. I can see I'm losing my voice. So
now, did you go down to the concert? Riverlink
Oh,
over the
I
weekend?
did. I did Saturday night. Fabulous concert, very well attended. I estimated between 500 and 600 people were there.
It was a good crowd.
It was a good crowd. The Joey Thomas band was terrific as always. Joey was getting a little unnerved because he kept wanting the old folks to come down and start dancing. But I'm thinking in my head because I know something about music.
Can't do two things at one time.
And the songs that they're playing when they were new. If people were dancing to them when they were new, they'd be about 95 right now. Okay, all right.
Or 80.
Yeah, no. I'm talking about stuff that was released in the late 30s. In the Mood and great number. I mean, it's played at every wedding.
Great music.
Just about. It's great music. But if you expect that the girl you danced with the first time you heard Glenn Miller play it is going to be able to get up and dance with you, it's a little iffy. Because I know at 63 I was not about to get up and but there were a lot of young kids up there dancing, obviously part of some kind of ballroom dance club, and they were great.
The swing dancers.
They were up there
In the mood.
In the mood, but they were. Anyway, he starts out with "It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing," and it just got swingier and swingier as it went along. I said, there was a lot of musical genius going on in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
There really was.
It was.
And boy, those guys were inventing music. I watched not long ago on Netflix. I watched the. Must have been Ken Burns, the jazz series from PBS.
Yeah, just on.
And it was great. It was just one episode after it was better than the next. Louis Armstrong inventing music. I got a recording of him doing that number, and it's from the 30s. It's just wonderful. Anyway, and they finish with "I'm proud to be an American" and "God bless the USA." And good show. One short intermission. Got to see a lot of my old friends. So it was great. We have a number? We have a call?
Have a call on our number.
This is WCSS. You're on the air.
Congratulations to Gavin Murdoch's son, and I want to hear him gloat. And I want him here to gloat and keep on gloating until he loses his voice. I want to hear about what he has to say about the competition that he was in, because it was very interesting. Goodbye.
All right. Okay. And of course, I don't know if we mentioned Misha's name, but it's Misha Murdoch, the Stonehouse Piper.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Brag away.
The Capital Districts are basically the largest Scottish games held in New York State through the course of the summer. And there's bands and soloists from all over the East Coast, and as I mentioned, also Texas this year came up to participate. And the various tunes are also played as solos. They've got hornpipes and jigs, which are fast-moving songs. You've got March, Strathspey, and Reel, which are intermediate, and they've got a pibroch, which is classical bagpiping. I guess you'd have to call it classical bagpiping. And we've been doing this for 8 years, and to be 100% honest, it's terrible. It's terrible.
In what way?
In what way?
In the way you say God is a terrible and awesome God, or
no, as in after the other ones that have melody and rhythm and excitement in, pibroch is a dirge, and to me there's no rhythm to it. There's no meter. But it also goes on for 8 to 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, so the one we like the least.
It's mostly noise, is that what you're saying?
Well, it's various noises. Some of it's not too bad.
Kind of like lesser
but it's the one that they really gauge to see your technical ability on the pipes. And he usually does really well. And this time he got a third, which was fine. But he was.
Wait a minute. You mean you have to listen to this type of music being practiced?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. For a long time.
Wow.
For a long time.
Is that what we were hearing last week on the?
No. He was doing his hornpipe and jig when you heard him last week.
Okay.
And they take the scores from those three events and they put them together, and the competitor that has the lowest score, first is worth one, second is worth two, and add them up is how they determine who the piper of the day, who the best piper was, and he got it this year. The band did very well. They took a second on Saturday, and they took a first on Sunday because it's a 2-day competition for the bands, and it was absolutely mobbed on Saturday. It was huge crowd on Saturday. It was kilt to kilt down there.
Wow.
You know, and
I've always meant to go to that, and I always forget it's on.
it's every Labor Day, and they had a great crowd. They had the Celtic bands, the Scottish bands that play pipes to modern and traditional music down there. They had the Brigadoons, which is a Scotch-Irish group that sings traditional songs as well as some modern things, and they always put them over in the beer tent.
Does everybody sing along with them too?
Oh, everybody sings along. It's amazing how many melodies there are to some of these songs, and how many
you're making
words.
me thirsty just talking about it.
But he was real happy. There's a big competition. The last one of the year will be held in 2 weeks up at Loon Mountain up in New Hampshire. We'll be going up there for that.
There too.
Yeah. And that'll be the end of the season for this year, and now they're gearing up to go to Scotland next year.
I assume you were tossing the telephone pole while you were there, right?
No, I didn't toss the caber.
The caber.
The caber.
18
It's 18 foot
18-foot
pole, and it weighs about 180 pounds, and you have to flip it over. And
you don't weigh 180 pounds.
I don't weigh 180 pounds. No, I don't.
Why don't they just toss you instead?
Neither does my son. So, but it was a great weekend, and we had a great time. It rained Saturday, but it's just Scottish sunshine is all that is rain.
There you go. This is WCSS. You're on the air.
Bob, this is Michael.
Michael, tell us about it.
All right, you might not be able to hear me too good.
I hear you great.
Are not functioning properly. Let's get it straight. Number one, there's been very little coverage of what's been going on, the arguments and counter-arguments from the press. She was there a couple of meetings ago, and she still hasn't wrote the story of what happened with my commentary on Public Works. Yeah. Number one, I voted for Alderman at large. Why? Because basically I'd like all aldermen at large. I tried to get what I could. I think there should be an opportunity out there for someone who may not run. Take, for instance, my ward. There's a lot of people that won't run because of what the various reasons are. So I felt, well, maybe we could get, it only takes one person. Maybe we could get one person on there that's a real professional that can bring this city back. Okay, necessarily I saw it that way. I'd like to have 5 aldermen at large. They're not going to go with it. Number 2, I believe the mayor should be separated. They never got into the issue of whether the mayor, whoever that may be, can present legislation. I wanted that the mayor could present no legislation. I don't think that went anywhere. The rest of the items, I agree with you. Okay. I think the mayor has an obligation to sign. I've talked with a former mayor. He agrees with me. They do not. I personally voted no on that. I voted no on the other ones. Curtis voted no on some of them. You got to get and understand and be there to understand the arguments. The 5%, actually it was a 5% rule. Now it went down to 4.5%. That to me is so convoluted, and I made my arguments there when I was there.
That's insane.
That I don't think anybody's going to understand what it even means. I don't agree with that. I think there has to be a separation of power. I believe the Common Council is having a lot of power taken away from it. I do not agree with that whatsoever. I had brought up, I thought the Corporation Council should be hired by the Common Council. You know how far that went. I thought that he should be required, or she, to be in City Hall. You know how far that went. I thought there should be mandatory drug testing of the elected officials. That didn't go anywhere. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen, but there's no press coverage. Yeah. So how is the public going to know basically what's going on? As far as the public hearing, I had brought that up before. There's been some kind of want to put the gavel down on somebody, but there was a difference of opinion. They're finally going to have one, I believe, in a couple of weeks or whatever.
Yeah, but that's after the fact.
I was told that maybe I'm reading the statute wrong. I don't think I am.
I didn't think so either.
There's so many other arguments. The really thing that I wanted on there yesterday, and I have to admit, I probably blew up a little bit too harsh yesterday, with the Department of Public Works. Now, I'm probably going to have to go back to grade school, because when I read the charter, it says the Director of Public Works shall also be the engineer. I'm told that it doesn't say that. So obviously I forgot how to read and how to interpret. I'm told that doesn't exist. So Curtis was kind enough to make charts for us a few meetings ago, and all I wanted to do personally, I think a couple others might have wanted, the city engineer would take over basically as an advisor and take over the water and sewer aspect. Anything to do with the streets would be taken over by the general foreman who we have.
Right.
We're being told that there's no such item going on, and the Common Council did something. And I'm asking, when did they do this? I can't get an answer.
Well,
that is a very important department,
sure.
and it should be addressed. And you're told these things, and I personally don't agree with that. I do not want a dictatorship. I want it to change something, and of course, you're going to see how far this is going to go. I got told you can't do it. They have a sentence in there, we want a strong mayor form of government. I think it's inherent. Number two, I want a strong taxpayer form of government. I want something that's going to address the public. If you're not there and you don't hear it all, you get bits and pieces, and a couple of us don't want to be put in with the horde. You may not agree with me on the first item. I know Vito yelled at me, and maybe he has a good point as far as aldermen at large. But the rest of the stuff, from my own personal opinion, I'm voting no. Yeah. What I see is going to happen now, I think it's going to pass. Why do I think it's going to pass now? Because there's 6 items on there from the state, along with 4, 6, or whatever we have. And I think the people, when they turn it over, unfortunately, are probably going to say, this is just too much to digest, and will not put the no in the column. And if you don't put the no in that little circle, and a group comes out, it's going to pass. So I think we need more messages out there to make this understandable. I think Peter's probably going to want to come out and explain what they meant by some of this, which is fine. I don't believe Judge Seiss said what they say he said.
Okay, he said nothing like right. He said nothing like they said he said.
You know who I am.
Yeah.
So get some of it straight. I know you're trying to do that. I really appreciate that at least somebody's putting it on the air, because you got to go through this and understand how this stuff was presented and why it's been presented. I'm sick and tired of hearing what's going on now. I know what's going on now, but this charter is written as a document for whoever may be there. It's not written, it shouldn't be written for any particular group or any particular person.
Right.
That is wrong.
Right.
And that's my philosophy, and that's how I feel.
Michael, we need a little time to digest this. As I mentioned at the beginning, I only got this within the hour before the show started this morning. Would it be possible for you to come on Friday or next Tuesday to discuss it at some point?
I guess they sort of want. Nobody tells me, as you know, nobody tells me what to think or say. Nobody. I'm no rubber stamp for anybody. I could probably do that. I guess they frown on it. The board frowns on it. They want Mr. Califano to do all the speaking. I don't particularly agree with that.
Well, if you're in serious disagreement and voted against some of these propositions,
I voted for the last group. The only thing I voted for was to get rid of the mayor at the Common Council. I thought that was absurd.
Yeah.
And the aldermen at large, which I know a lot of people don't agree with. The rest of the stuff, personally, I voted no on all of it. I think Curtis voted no on some of it. I voted no.
Now,
that's never going to get out there, because yesterday, who was there for the media? Who's been there from the media? Him, Becker. The recorder wasn't there.
Who's going to come out on a holiday?
Been there only a few times. You're not getting the full group of arguments and the points of what being said that the people should have the right to hear. Now, I'm not the media, so I can't go out and do that. I can try to explain it. I know they're going to disagree and say you're not interpreting right, especially the idea on the budget. Come on, we've had this budget where the Common Council has the authority, and they should keep a lot of the authority. If you put something in the budget and the Common Council says X is X, that's it.
Right.
I don't know if you got it all, but they also gave the power to transfer without council approval in some of those budgets on item to item. And I asked a question yesterday, hypothetically. Yes. Let's assume this is X's budget, or whoever it is $50,000. All of the budget. What they do fail to understand, there's a sheet in the back of the budget, which is more than you think it is because we changed the percentages. But let's just say it's $50,000. And let's assume that out of a certain line item, let's say any kind of line items in there, you didn't spend it all. And then you decide that I'm going to transfer in here, I'm going to put it into a one account. Now, one account would be personnel. And can I hire somebody? You know what I was told? Yes. Wow. Probably won't happen. Think of the implications of this stuff. When I go to a meeting which I don't. But if I go and I start protesting the budget, what good is me protesting the budget when it can be Mickey Mouse the way it can be Mickey Mouse within the people without going to the Common Council who has jurisdiction? Come on, let's stop this nonsense. That's really absurd. I'm totally against it. I made comments on it. I know I'm going to be criticized by that board for getting on the radio, but you know what? I work for the people, and as far as I'm concerned, they ought to hear what somebody else has to say. And if somebody wants to get on the air and say I'm no good and everything else, God bless them, okay? But I think you ought to hear everything. I think it's too bunched up in the end. Have to read the whole item. You know, it's just not only it's transfer within. It's now there's a 4.5% rule. It's also the controller. It's also certain departments. What are we doing here?
It's insane.
Personally, I kept just doing it to do it. Every meeting I'd raise my hand and says, let's dissolve the city. And of course, you know that did not go on. So, yeah, maybe I could. I don't know if I should. I think I've been banned from the studio, so I don't know if I
you have not been banned from the studio. You have an open invitation to be on this program.
Rick Morrison, I understand, banned me from the studio.
He's not working here anymore. He doesn't work here anymore. Okay? So you come down anytime you want.
Well, I think what you ought to do is you ought to really, maybe I could bring the items down and you ought to have a chance to see what they are. Because the people ought to know. But what I'm afraid of, because of the way this is going to be put on the ballot, is that a lot of people who may want to vote no or don't understand or whatever are not going to vote at all. And that's going to be dangerous. I think the people have a right to know. There's going to be a public hearing. Of course, it's after the fact. And they ought to attend. And they ought to ask a lot of questions on this. It's your government. You can keep it or you can give it away. I say we have an obligation for future generations. That's my own opinion. And as you know, I'm an outcast.
Not from this show, you're not. You have an open invitation, Michael.
And as far as the landfill, I hope it starts up again because we could have had $12 million and we wouldn't have to be playing games begging for casinos. And I'm for the casino, but not having to sit here with one egg in your basket.
All right.
But I guess they don't want to listen. So hopefully maybe now they'll wake up and realize the amount of revenue which was out there.
Yeah. Yep.
So I know you got to go, and thank you for your time for allowing me on the air.
Anytime, Michael. Anytime at all.
All right. Bye.
You know, when he mentioned that the last thing on the...
Well, by the way, that all happened so fast. That was Michael Chiara, former member of this program and talk show host in his own right, who was sitting on the Mayor's Charter Commission, and he was pointing out his own dissents. Go ahead.
I read somewhere on somebody's blog the other day that last resolution with the percentages would allow the mayor to transfer from one fund to the other fund.
That's what he just said.
What he was just saying. I saw that and I didn't fully understand it until Michael just mentioned it again. I guess that's the fact. If somebody hasn't spent all their money, she could say, well, okay, so and so needs some more money. I'm going to put it over there. She can
without the Common Council
without the council's approval.
And of course, as a practical matter,
which is a dangerous thing.
That's the way she was doing things anyway. Until Ron Wiersbicky came along,
which is a very dangerous thing.
Yeah,
and that's why the city is.
And then she just
out
say,
of money.
Was somebody saying this is not a good idea? Blah, 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 blah. No, just do things the right way, like the whole arts center thing. Do it the right way. Don't do it behind everybody's back. We don't need the Common Council. That's great. We don't need the Common Council. Let's elect the dictator, like I said before.
Well, that's what they're going to do
with the ability to tax at will and spend at will.
With this charter change, that's what's going to happen. They're not going to need the council.
This is just so awful on so many levels. And as Michael pointed out, the more we read the fine print, the worse it gets, not the better it gets.
Yes.
I wanted to ask Michael, but Michael's Michael, and when he's focused,
when he's on a run. When he's on a run, he's on a run, and that's okay.
So how does you take the mayor away as presiding over the Common Council, which everybody wanted,
Yeah.
but she still has the power to introduce legislation. Well, it's kind of somewhat contradictory, but at least.
I don't believe she should. I don't think.
Yeah, it makes less of a difference if she's not controlling the meeting.
It makes her legislate.
But then to couple that with, and oh, by the way, she gets to appoint the deputy mayor, not the other members of the council. Well, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And so, what's a good idea that get her out of the room, or at least off the
Off
podium.
the dais.
That's a better word. Thank you.
Yeah,
you know,
once in a while I come up with right.
so now I got to vote against the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there are lawyers on this commission and such, and of course Dick Casadas has been to almost every meeting. Yet some basic things like I got in a discussion with Califano the other night on Facebook about pointing out that the Common Council by local law eliminated the Economic Development Department, the whole provision in the charter.
Exactly.
But when you were on the
Yes,
council,
I was on the council.
I think your very first meeting, it came out, it was put on the table, and then you
And I
voted
heard
on the next.
I heard the rumor yesterday that they want to bring that same person back
As deputy mayor?
As Ada, chairman of Ada, I believe.
Well, if you follow the charter provision, he's supposed to be the director.
Exactly,
of
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
But the charter provision. So I carefully pointed this out. I understand Mr. Califano's a lawyer, but I happen to know it was eliminated because I was corporation counsel. I drafted the local law that eliminated it. Okay. And I'm the one who certified it to the Secretary of State that it had been properly approved.
I've got to say this, and I'm probably getting myself in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, sure.
Lawyers have a lot of education, even though you were one.
They've been to school for a long
and they've been
time.
to school for a long time. But what makes them so much more intelligent than me?
Well,
I mean, I haven't gone to school that often, that extensively.
well, there are certain magic things that only we are permitted to know.
Okay.
We'll just leave it at that. So anyway, Califano says, no, it's in the copy of the charter I have. I said, read the sentence before it at the end of the previous provision, and they're in tiny print. We're talking about the online edition, the E-code edition. In tiny print, it says section, whatever it is, charter section 23, whatever, was eliminated by local law such and such of 2000 and
Right.
whatever it was, 2006. And well, then why is it still in my charter? He says, So they're reviewing this charter without even knowing what's not in it.
The changes weren't made in it.
Yeah.
The changes were made, but they weren't printed.
It wasn't printed properly. The whole section should
Right.
have been just X'd out.
Right.
That was just the editing process.
Yeah.
But the notation that it was repealed is
Was
right
there.
there in black and white, only in tiny print instead of big.
But nobody clicks on it to read what it says.
Except that Jerry Scrocky pointed this out on his blog
Yes.
a year ago, if not more. That when the discussion was up, that the provision was eliminated, and this whole discussion has been held publicly, at least in open forums, and yet when something as basic as that is they're operating under a wrong set of assumptions.
Exactly.
And obviously a wrong set of assumptions as to what I hope it's a wrong set of assumptions as to what Judge Seiss's decision said regarding the contract powers of the council and the mayor. I hate to think that they would be deliberately misconstruing what
they
he
are.
said, but
They are deliberately.
It's certainly bordering on that.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I read his judgment in the paper, and these things are completely opposite of what he said.
Yes.
Completely.
Yeah.
But nobody's disputing.
Well, I am.
Well, I
you
did.
are.
I did too. But
Gavin's a little wishy-washy on the issue because he's still lost in his pipe band stuff.
he's
that's
still
all right.
he's still listening to that.
We'll get him back.
Mike said he was in favor of the at-large.
He did.
Council.
He did.
And I
But,
understand.
I understand what
in
he's
theory,
saying.
I just have a problem with mixing and matching.
Yeah.
Simply increasing the number.
Right.
It should
Right.
be either or,
Right.
not both, because
Right.
now all of a sudden you've got a zebra with donkey stripes on it,
Right.
which actually zebra stripes. But
I
I understand what happens
never
when you
saw one of those.
start mixing jeans.
That's
you
right.
know.
Yeah. All right, we got another call. This is WCSS. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, guys. I'd like to know what your take is on the Elise Stefanik, Aaron Wolf race.
The what?
Stefanik Wolf.
I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about.
Well, Elise Stefanik, who was a protege of Paul Ryan and helped him craft his platform and position when he was a VP candidate, is running against Aaron Wolf in the 21st Congressional District.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, so
Okay.
what's my opinion?
Well, do you think that she is a bona fide candidate, or do you think that possibly the Republican Party is running her up the flagpole to see if her politics fly, and if they do, they might consider putting Paul Ryan somewhere back on the ticket?
Well, is this the New York State congressional district we're talking about?
Yeah.
The one that comes down as far as Perth?
I'm not sure exactly what the boundaries are.
Yeah, she was, as I recall, was Karl Rove's candidate, and he put her up, and she won the primary fairly handily. It's an oddball district. It's you'd think an upstate New York district would be fairly conservative, and yet it's got a lot of college towns in it that are basically Bolshevik. So it's a tough district. I don't think that's a congressional seat that can be won by the Republicans, but I don't think that it sets any kind of pattern for anything that's going on anywhere else in the country, and I don't think it really has anything to do with Ryan's aspirations.
Well, I kind of do, because I think that first of all, she won't answer any questions on Medicare. Okay, and she also won't ask any questions on Social Security, but when she crafted the position that Ryan had, it was for, an advanced age before you can start collecting and fewer benefits.
Yeah.
So this past weekend, a caucus of senior citizens threw their endorsement behind Wolf, because basically she pulled a end around, wouldn't answer any of the questions.
Well, I think your professional senior citizen lobby is just an outcrop or a wing of the Democratic Party. I mean, they pull the same propaganda every time they run, that the Republicans want to eliminate the Medicare and Social Security, and we're the only ones that can protect you, which is baloney. So I don't put much cotton in either position, to tell you the truth.
Hey, it's interesting that you call the college towns Bolshevik.
Yeah, well,
It's kind of funny. But you know what they say?
Ithaca, New York is a prime example, but that's not in that district.
They say if you're 30 and you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart. And they say if you're 60 and you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain.
I believe, that's been credited to a lot of people, probably falsely.
I don't care who said it, but it's the truth.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, let's
All right.
do some more Amsterdam talk.
Okay, bye-bye. There was something else I wanted to get in here, and we only got a minute left. Today is the anniversary of the end of World War II. I was going to read a section from my book on that subject, but I guess we'll have to skip that. A lot of stuff going on here. I hope Michael comes back and explains all this stuff, because nobody knows it better than he does. This is bad stuff.
Yeah,
this is really bad stuff. Delighted to hear. I mean, I was afraid, that Michael had fallen asleep, that he was...
I tried to get to him the other day.
That he was no longer holding positions on issues, and no longer had any opinions,
But he does.
But he does. Thank God.
Yes.
Thank God for Michael Chiara, because this city would really be a wreck if he had never been around. Anyway, I'm Bob Going. We didn't even get our commercial in today. Hey, everybody go on. That's what I meant to do. Crystal and Forest. Great pizza, great Italian food, lots of great ice cream, and tell Tony we sent you. And sorry, we'll make up for this on Friday. We'll give you an extra minute and a half. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm Bob Going with Jim Nikosha and Gavin Murdoch, and this has been the show with no name. I forgot my $9 special I was going to talk about at Crystal too. All right. Next time.